So Scott mentioned one special technology, which is the barcode, which is trivial today, but maybe it was the beginning of the storytelling connected to products. So every barcode is connected to a little story about a product, and this is what we're talking now. So Jessi Baker established a project which is still in beta. It's called Provenance. It's about telling stories about products. It's about, hey, who built this bike and where do the parts come from? And we'll talk about this later. Please welcome Jessi Baker.
Hello, hello. Let me get my slides. Hello everyone, I'm Jessi Baker. Great to be here. So I am from a new startup and also small research group called Provenance. So at Provenance, we look at radical transparency of product supply chains. So what's that? We have seen traditionally and continually that business is often created through an asymmetry of information. Corporations know something that I don't know, whether that's through data or just through extracting a profit. This has often had a smokescreen effect between us and companies. So at Provenance, we're researching and experimenting with a new idea, and that is that openness and honesty could be the new source of value, and that this might foster trust and also more progressive companies. So the world's environmental and social problems are pretty evident to a lot of us as citizens. Yet, as consumers, or even as creators of products, these are not so obvious. In fact, we're lacking the truthful and timely information with which to change them. So let's look at materials, for example. With new technologies such as 3D printing, perhaps the invention of smarter materials, it's easy to forget that every single material on the planet was originally either grown or mined. The planet is actually quite finite. So, a product that you might purchase or create is actually just a blip on a humongous exchange called your supply chain, and an even larger exchange called a product life cycle, from the extraction of the oil to the rubbish heap the product might eventually decompose on. So, as we've seen already, we are quantifying more stuff than ever before, be it through our Fitbits, or even just obviously through our phones. We're measuring and measuring more and more stuff. And actually, even as we do that, we're continuing to perpetuate the business model I mentioned at the beginning, which is that of an asymmetry of information. We give our data. We do not gain a holistic view of all of the Fitbits in Berlin. We merely give our data and receive back an image of our own. So these closed systems are continuing to perpetuate power and profit coming from closed systems. So what about when we extend this idea of quantified self to other things, such as quantified stuff? What about data not just about us and our immediate surroundings, but data about all of our things? So I would suggest that having data about all of our things being open is actually going to be incredibly important. See, with open supply chain data, we can start to progress design. So this is an example of just that. This lamp was designed with the embodied energy as the start point rather than the end point. So currently at the moment, in the quantified stuff movement, we might look at all of the things that surround us and be able to analyze deeply how much energy it took to create them, what their carbon footprint is. But if we have all of that information already available to us, then why not use it as a design tool? So for example, here, Rich Gilbert created this 1 megajoule lamp, which is made with concrete due to its low energy content. This is a 10 megajoule lamp. And this is a 20 megajoule lamp. So data was used to inform the design completely, something that could perhaps become quite commonplace as we start to exhaust the Earth's resources. So at Provenance, we're looking at this in depth. because we believe behind every single product there is a story. There's this journey of people, of places, and raw materials. And these stories are actually incredibly valuable, be them qualitative or quantitative, and can be used to progress design and also progress us as consumers to start to buy more local things, start to invest in things that perhaps have a longer life cycle. So we call this open product data. And we're working with a few other organizations in this, including the Open Knowledge Foundation. And what we're doing is looking at individual objects and starting to open up their data footprint. So this is all the different types of bits of information, both qualitative and quantitative, that relate to the object. Because currently, we only see a very tiny slice of this footprint. In fact, the main piece of quantitative information that we have is price, yet there are so many others. So as was mentioned before, the barcode, in an incredible way for identifying uniquely objects, the barcode database actually until recently was a closed database. So you couldn't see any information about objects. The barcode database wasn't actually searchable by us as consumers, but only by large corporations. So recently, through Open Product Data, the project, over, I think, 2 million different barcodes have been opened up to be searchable information now by consumers. So I would argue that we're seeing more and more of an active, voluntary opening up of information behind products, such as a Kickstarter. Kickstarter is an interesting example for me because you don't just look at the price or just the function when you buy something on Kickstarter. You're not actually buying something, you're backing something. You're buying into a story, a reasoning, a rationale. You're buying into the people that are creating the project and their vision. You're actually seeing a much larger piece of the data footprint of that product before you invest in it. Yet, usually, when we go shopping day to day, we don't see those personal motivations. We don't see financial information about companies. We don't see materials information. We just see the price, the color maybe, a photo of the product, and the name of the product, and that's literally it. There's a lack of product stories being prevalent when we shop online particularly. So this is what we're trying to do at Provenance. We're researching this intersection of open data, supply chain, and storytelling, and we're particularly focused on the creation of physical products. And at the moment, we're building a tool to link together these stories with products so that us as consumers can have the timely information with which to act on these stories. So our mantra is, share more about the things you make and know more about the things you buy. So what kinds of information are we gathering about products? We're working with several other open data partners looking at things like supply chain data, social media, an incredibly rich place to mine for information about products. As mobile technology and the internet proliferates around the world, more and more people who work in these product supply chains or are stakeholders of them have access to the internet with which to share information. And we're also looking particularly at financial data at the moment, so looking at all different kinds of information about companies, such as their hierarchy, where they pay tax, perhaps even who are the board members, and starting to connect this with products. So this is how the Provenance tool works. We take supply chain data in the many forms that I just described at the bottom, and we connect that to products. Initially, we're doing that with barcodes as the unique product ID, but as the Internet of Things starts to proliferate, we'll see more and more connecting this information with unique incidences of products. So all of this information goes into an open product database that's guardianed by the Open Knowledge Foundation. We're not trying to perpetuate an information asymmetry to make money. So then we can serve up this data inside e-commerce, for example, and lots of other types of experiences. So here's an example of one we did recently. So we're working with Lily Cole up here, who has a knitwear brand. So we're starting with relatively dumb products rather than going straight for more complex technology products. But I think you'll hear later in this conference about something called the Fairphone, which is a really great example of a product supply chain transparency applied to a complex object. So here we are working with a simple object, a hat. And lots of information about this product has been entered into Provenance, and then we've worked with Lily to serve up this information inside her e-commerce page. She's done this with a sort of expanding text kind of interaction. But it means if you continue to click on the text inside this product page, you can go all the way down to the exact person that made the hat, where they are, what material they made it from, what the farm was, where the wool came from, should you want to find out. It also means we can start doing interesting things with data visualization in e-commerce. So up until now, when we go shopping, we usually only have price, name of the product as our methods for browsing. We don't have any other information with which to sort products. So we've been using some of the supply chain data that we've gathered in order to give new kinds of visualizations to e-commerce. So for example, we've plotted all of the products on Provenance by where they're made. So you can go onto the site, it's GPS sensitive, so it finds your location, and then you can see, oh, these are all the things that are made close by to me. So we've been doing several different experiments like this, including locations of materials, but then also looking at, say, search by material, being able to say, okay, I want to find shoes made near London, not made of leather. So adding all of these new extra dimensions to e-commerce. Then we've also started to play with the physical world, the physical retail world, because currently most of us, when we're going shopping in the physical world, quite often get out our mobile phones, check what the price is on Amazon, check other information about things. So we thought, well, if we've got all of this open data about products, including lots of different bits of information, why don't we try and start serving this information up inside perhaps a more open retail experience? So we created a mini store just in the studio, and which meant that I could see certain kinds of information that interest me about products, and someone else, when they approach the store, can see other kinds of information about products, giving flexibility to our shopping environments. So we're really at the beginning with this project, and I think it's an exciting time. I feel like, as the last two talks have said, we live in a world where we are being farmed for our data every single day. And for me, I see product supply chains as an interesting juncture where we might start to actually see an opening up of data and a more of a level of transparency, less asymmetry. And I feel like the making of things could become, especially with small-scale local manufacturing, an incredibly powerful way for us to benefit both the environment and society. So I would invite you to follow us on Twitter, join on with what we're doing. We're officially releasing the platform this summer, so keep posted. And yeah, join us in creating a world made better by the making of things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We were talking in the morning about a German company I'm not sure you weren't aware of, which is quite successful, which is called Manufaktum. And they started out 10 or 15 years ago, I don't know, with telling stories about this great handmade stuff. So this looks a little bit like Manufaktum 2.0. So you have an online project, you have all this data, and you still tell all these great stories about products. What if they are lies?
Yeah, that's the big thing. I guess that's why this is the 2.0, because so what we're really trying to create with Provenance is a framework for opening up information. So this means that, firstly, it isn't just about telling a story on Kickstarter or telling a story on your about page of your personal website. It's about opening up your information into an open data framework, which for me is the start for which we can start to benchmark information, cross-verify it, and give it open access so that anyone can start to contest it or question it. So that's really the key to this, is using the crowd in order to help to verify and gather some of this information. So the framework is the first method, and this means anyone. The big thing with this, it means anyone has access to do this. But then we're also looking at other things, such as if you include an accreditation into your data that could be verified. So we could say, is this actually fair? Have you really got a fair trademark for this product, yes or no? And that idea could definitely be extended as well, working with companies that really do go with a clipboard to supply chains and vet exactly where products have come from. But I think we have to work through those tiers and also make sure that we don't exclude people by making product supply chain verification very expensive.
Okay, so expensive is the next. So isn't it really expensive to have products with a story? So most of the time I buy products that don't have a story, and I don't want to know the stories of the products. So
Yeah.
I go to the supermarkets or stuff like that. So isn't it too expensive that every product has a story?
Initially, a lot of the volunteers that we've had to work on Provenance have been making quite expensive products because they see their supply chain as being a unique selling point. So their supply chain is incredibly good, which often ends up with the product being expensive. I think this isn't always the case, but one thing I do believe is that there needs to be a readjustment in how we perceive value. I think gone are the days when we think it's acceptable to spend a few pounds on a garment. So I do think there's going to need to be a readjustment of value, because we can't continue. Someone is paying somewhere for your dress if it costs less than €5. So we need to readjust that value. But no, I think especially looking at local things, actually there's definitely a huge opportunity for things to buy things that are cheaper just by buying them more local to where you are, for example.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay.